Okay, for the second lot of the shading, the more important part, moving from the basic kind of coloring, shading into something more advanced, little bit more advanced for the children to follow. I'm using color pencils, a whole lot of colors for the fruit, which will be all the oranges, yellows, reds in my color pencil box, and a whole lot of greens for the cashew nut. I have 3 greens uh, in my color pencil set, and I'm going to use purple and browns for the shadow areas and the darker areas in the fruit. Okay, so essentially what we did first, all the colors are very sketchy. You can see the lines in which I've done it, and also you can see separate pieces. There's a piece of yellow, there's a piece of orange, there's a piece of red. Everything now has to move seamlessly from one to the other without having this patchy kind of a look. See, the light green and the dark green are two different parts of the nut. The yellow, the orange and the brown is looking very different as three parts of the fruit. So now it should all move seamlessly one into the other to look like the one that I'm attempting to color. Okay, for this we have a gradation of colors. For the fruit we have white, which I will use for certain highlights. Here I'm not going to do the water drops because that's going to take a long time. So that will be the white, the really sharp white drops of water which is on the fruit. I'm going to avoid that today. And then there's yellow and 2 or 3 oranges. Red, you can take the red as much dark as you want to match the object that you're coloring. And then I've added some brown for the darker, the lower parts of the fruit. And for the greens also, there is white, which is the water drops, and the highlight which I'm avoiding. Then some light greens, some darker medium tones as I call them in the class, and then the darker shadow tones for the green. Okay, so now these colors have to move seamlessly one into the other so that you get the shading more even tone. Yeah, so I'll do the nut first before I get into the fruit. Yeah, it's right here. So I'll start with a lighter shade, and I will put it completely even in the areas where there is a darker shade of green. Yeah, I'm not going to limit it to the top half like I did in the first demo. We're taking it a little bit advanced. Even between the dark green there is some light green here, and here I'm coloring in such a way that you cannot see the strokes, the angles in which I'm coloring, so that it is much softer, just like how the fruit is. Now I'm going to take a good look at the fruit and try to get my shading, the darker areas of my shading to look just like how it is in the picture. I'm going up this gradation. So from the light I've just taken the darker greens. I haven't jumped into the shadow areas as yet. Okay, it's also important to color in the same flow of the object. This cashew is kind of turned in a bent like say walking cane kind of a shape, or a bent 7. So we will follow the same direction so that we get the feel of the fruit in that direction too. And now I'm taking my darker green, going one level, maybe this is my 3rd level of shading, pushing it with less pressure when I come near the light greens and softer in the other areas, darker and then softer as I meet the highlight, which is the darker green area. Now I'm going to take my browns and start working in the shadow areas, darkening it and also defining the shape as I'm finishing off with this nut. I'm going to take the chocolate brown, which is the darker brown which I have in my color pencil box. Work the same angle as the object. If it's a more advanced level, you can have some of the oranges, some of the reds also into the fruit, because taking some black and putting some of those spots onto this, just randomly, not like how it is in the picture. Okay, and then going back to my greens, and I'm going to try and, I'm not going to give it a very sharp line, but I'm just going to define the shape of it. Maybe I'll add some black into the space where it's meeting the fruit. This one's black. So it gives that lift from the fruit into this. Cover it with some green again, so that you don't see brown but a really dark green. Okay, so now the cashew should look like that. I'm going to start with the fruit. Again, in the same fruit, the direction of the light is here, so I do have a softer top, but this time instead of coloring with streaks and lines like in the previous the demo first video, I'm making this a little softer so that you don't see the lines. It's a fruit, it doesn't have scratchy lines on it. Also, I'm trying to work this direction down here, a curved direction on the top and kind of straight in the middle, so ultimately it'll look like a curved object. It has to look more spherical, or more 3D than this flat shape. So I'm actually putting in much more yellow than I see, and slowly I'm moving up this gradation of color, taking an orange, because it's not a pure yellow, it's kind of an orangey yellow, so I'm taking a soft orange like this, even though I'm down at the bottom. I'm leaving some parts of yellow here, slowly creating those little ridges in the fruit. Changing the direction of my shading. I know the rear is more red, so I'm working in the orange and yellow area first. That too very softly. I'm not even going too dangerously dark at this time. So this is my second level where I've just mixed in the orange, the lightest orange and the yellow. Now I'm daring to go a little darker into the medium tones, more towards the rear of the fruit, because this is the direction of the light, and so it's darker at the back and below, underneath the fruit where it touches the table, the basket surface. It's darker here. It's actually more red. However, I'm not yet in red. I'm still going up this ladder, the grades of orange that I see, so I'm not yet taking red out. Change the angle, the direction of your shading. Hold the pencil at the back so you're not applying too much pressure. Won't get too many lines. This is my third level of shading. And now I'm going to take the red, work from the back, this red, and slowly I'll go darker. Change the direction so it's coming upwards here. Softer red on the top here. It's just reddish orange, it's not at all red. reddish orange here, so yellow is now reducing, reddish orange in this space. There is no light here, so I'm covering all the yellow that I put in here. I'm going a lot darker this time. This is the next level, creating more details. Noticed I've begun to hold my pencil right at the tip so that I can have more pressure on my pencil. Now I'm going to slowly move into the browns, the purples, to create more depth and more shadow in the fruit below. There's a little bump in the fruit here. I'm going to soften that brown back into the red. There's a reddish brown here, so I'm going to use the reddish brown pencil, not the chocolate brown one, into this. I'm adjusting the colors now finally, so that I'm just going to finish off with this fruit. It also has some green in it, since it's just out of plucked from the tree. It still has some green which is not yet ripened fully, so I'm adding some green into that. Looks more natural that way, more organic. And then finally you can add the little smudges or spots or whatever these fruits have, small little lots of water droplets on the top. So beautiful. Going to finish with the edges now. And finally for the shadow, which will be here. This is the source of light, so this part of the fruit will be really dark, the shadow and the fruit, and then it will slowly move into a lighter shadow. And for the final details, I can just see some shadow where the cashew sits on this. This particular fruit has more of a shadow on this part here, which is actually the shadow of that fruit onto this. So I did not do it in the shading right here. Okay. If you want to create that nice bright white line here, then you have to use an eraser, create the white, and show the little pop of highlight on it. Or you should leave it right in the front. Okay, that's done. Thank you for watching. Hope you'll try again. Get it to look a little better. If I have more time, I will work on the water drops, or I will work on the other details also. But this is how we get from here to a fruit with shadow. This is still flat. This is still flat. It just looks like 2D. And this will look more rounded. More rounded, even the nut, as compared to the first two. This looks more rounded because of using various shades. Thank you for watching. Bye. Hope you learned something.